So now we're going to speak about introverted sensation defined and created by Carl Jung. I am of the opinion that all of the functions need a foundation and having that universal across all theories, and then you create the system after that. But when you change what the function means or add so much to it to the point to where the essence of what it is not there anymore. Therefore, it's a lot of confusion that happens across the board, especially when you're using the same terminology. This is an issue. If I made a word and it means a certain thing because I defined it and you took the word and changed its meaning, you have changed what it is that I created. Don't touch my merchandise. Basically, like that's just if you're going to use the term, the word, use it the way it's supposed to be used and then build off of it afterwards. I'm being a little nitpicky. Let's first define cognition. So we're going to do a little bit different now. SI is a very tricky function to see and acknowledge for some people, but we're going to make it easy, right? First, cognition definition. The mental action or process of acquiring knowledge and understanding through thought, experience, and the senses. Interesting, right? A perception, sensation, idea, or intuition resulting from the process of cognition. So, just off the definition of cognition, we know that your experiences, your thoughts, your everything is wired cognitively. So we know that sensation, although it is dealing with the tangible, we also know that you can bring the tangible into a thought. You can make it a process within the mind, even. And we're going to explain exactly how that works through the function of introverted sensation. But first, we're going to read Carl Jung, since he is the creator of the function. According to psychological types, introverted sensation SI is a perceiving function that focuses on subjective impressions derived from sensory experiences. It's a way of processing information that emphasizes inner sensations and past experiences rather than focusing on objective reality of external stimuli. SI users prioritizes their internal subjective experience of the world. They focus on how things feel rather than just what they are. Basically, you get the essence of what SI actually is through Carl Jung. And not only is it's dealing with experience, which is the tangible, but it's impressions, sense impressions, basically, in a simple way of understanding it is processing those sense impressions based off of past experiences. So some people would say that it's memory, not exactly, right? Memory is not actually in the definition of SI, although you can relate it to memory in lighter ways, right? But to call it actual memory is not what it is. But yes, it could be related to it to a degree. We all have memory, right? So in that case, we all have SI. You could also say that. But at the same time, if you're saying things of this nature continuously, you also not referencing the differences between SI versus every other function, which is something that we have to do in order to get any type of clarity whatsoever. Okay, so now let's go to Myers-Briggs, right? In MBTI, introverted sensation SI is a perceiving function that focuses on internal subjective experiences and memories. Yes, okay. It involves drawing on past experiences, sensations, and details to understand and interpret the present, often leading to a strong sense of familiarity and a preference for routine and tradition. Pretty much, that pretty much sums it up. It's very simple. Memories, yes and no. I'll be careful with using that word as I said earlier. but it's more about sense impressions. That's more important because with those sense impressions, they become more personal. There's a personal side to sense impressions. There's something of an acknowledgement to what's familiar, all while not losing the essence of what the function actually is. Objective personality, OPS, introverted sensation, SI, is defined as the function that organizes sensory data based on personal experience and internal impressions. It's about how individuals compare and contrast the present with their past experiences, drawing on detailed memories and sensory information to form internal impressions and judgments. Okay, so I do think that this, similar to MBTI, OPS actually said memories as well, but what they tend to do here is add in impressions, internal impressions and judgments, which I actually think is a good idea. This actually clears it up a little bit more. It adds more nuances into what exactly or what about memories is significant, because when you add the internal impressions, then you start to see there's a connection to what is, yes, but that connection is relatable for them, which is great. So this is a pretty decent definition. Now we go to Socionics according to Wiki Socion, right? Introverted sensing, SI, is an information element that focuses on internal, tangible, and physical sensations and how they relate to the individual's internal state. Yeah, very good. It's about awareness of internal physical states, how things feel, and how they connect to past experiences. I like how they actually added that in. That is something that is true. It is a sense of how things feel to a degree, but at the same time, right? It's highlighting on that particular information. So it's like we all can have essence of how something feels, but for SI they tend to highlight on it. So I do like how they presented that in that way. It involves internalizing and deeply experiencing sensations, and it's associated with a focus on tangible connections between processes and objects, including awareness of health and balance with one's environment. I would say that this is a good definition because this is something that is true. The interesting thing about sensation functions is they have to be tied to a rational function in order to understand it, right? You cannot filter information solely based off perception functions without including rational functions elements to it. And this is why the definitions will sound like they will have some rational components to it, but you're triangulating and highlighting around the lens. What's important? What do they see? The expression. Overall, I do think that this is a good definition. IDT's definition. And then I want to explain a little bit the difference between SI and NI. In attached constraint narrators, SI serves as the dominant pillar function, operating through a perceptual lens grounded through internalized experience. These types depend on tangible, known elements and construct meaning through accumulated impressions that are personally stored and internally cross-referenced. In conversation, they tend to be clear, cautious, and deliberatively informative, navigating reality through careful attention to what is. So this is something I want to highlight because in a conversation, they are very clear. But sometimes if they sound confused, they can sound intuitive. But it's not that they're intuitive, it's more so that they're speaking about intuitive things. And when they're doing that, because of how careful and articulate they are about those details, they slow themselves down versus speed themselves up, like how NI DOMs do. NI jumps to those conclusions faster, which is why they are vague. But if you're stumbling over yourself, and trying to understand it for yourself. How that looks like from the outside looking in is that you're just confused. But from the NI Dom, it's the other people who is confused. NI knows what they see. They have a problem sharing it in a non-vague way for everyone else to see. And there's the difference between the perspectives between both of those two types. Anyway, so in a conversation, they do tend to be clear, cautious, and deliberatively informative, navigating reality through careful attention to what is. When approaching the unknown, SI pillar types tend to slowly and carefully parse ambiguity, almost as if they're carefully analyzing intuition by referencing familiar details enriched in known information. Unlike NI-pillar types who form rapid, intuitive conclusions through abstract synthesis, SI pillars build clarity, grounding uncertainty in what is already known, rather than projecting into the unknown. These types construct their environments through stable inner impressions, and this process is supported by an in-service function of TI or FI, which helps them internally build or guide constrained narratives within the major arc. Their focus is subject-oriented and rich in details as they seek internal consistency and tend to refine perception by comparing current experience against what is trusted, learned, and lived. In contrast to SE, which is driven by real-time novelty and external immediacy, SI is shaped by what has already occurred, favoring reliability over being spontaneous.